We are 3 races into the 2026 Formula One season, and Audi are already looking for a brand new team principal. Audi have spent years building their Formula One program and convinced one of the most respected people in the paddock, and Jonathan Wheatley, to move from the UK to Switzerland and from Red Bull to Audi as team principal. And he's lasted less than 12 months, 10 to be exact, and out of those 10, 9 were when Audi was Sauber last year. So actually, just 1 month. And to be very precise and absurd, only 2 races, 2 weeks. Jonathan Wheatley was Audi's team principal for 2 weeks this year. 2 races. That is less time than it takes most people to finish a Netflix series. And now, Matteo Binotto is sitting at his desk in Hinwil with his phone in hand, scrolling through his phone to understand who could be the next team principal of Audi F1. And look, Audi is coming to Formula One to win championships by 2030. And right now, they cannot keep a team principal past race 2. And again, through no fault of their own, to be fair. But the key question is, who replaces Jonathan Wheatley at Audi F1? This is going to be a highly sought after position, and that's exactly why it's super exciting. And that's exactly what we're going to discuss today. But before we get into the candidates, right? Trust me, the list is wild. Let's make sure everyone is up to speed on exactly what's happened and why Matteo Binotto is now scrambling for a phone call. But before we get into the candidates, and trust me, this list is wild. Let's make sure everyone is up to speed on exactly what happened and why Matteo Binotto is now scrambling for a phone call. So here is what happened. Jonathan Wheatley, who served as Audi's team principal for just 2 races, is becoming Aston Martin's team principal. And Adrian Newey, who was Aston Martin's team principal for 2 races, is stepping away to a more technical role so that he can purely focus on car design, and then someone else needs to run the race team, and that's Jonathan Wheatley. And on paper, it makes perfect sense. Jonathan Wheatley knows the Red Bull methodology, the successful blueprint that worked over there, and Adrian Newey knows Jonathan Wheatley from their Red Bull years together. And I think crucially, this gets Jonathan Wheatley back to the UK. And that last part, I think, was key. Audi's Hinwil base is in Switzerland, right? And Jonathan Wheatley has spent 20 years in Milton Keynes. So that is not a small ask when it comes to lifestyle change. And now let's talk about Jonathan Wheatley and why does losing him actually matter to Audi? Because some of your audience might not fully appreciate what Audi have actually lost in Jonathan Wheatley, but also what Aston Martin have gained. So Jonathan Wheatley started back as a junior mechanic at Benetton in the early 1990s when Michael Schumacher was his driver. Then he was a chief mechanic at Renault when Alonso won the 2005 championship, and then joined Red Bull in 2006 and nearly spent 20 years there, rising to the sporting director role. And across his time at Red Bull, 6 Constructors' Championships, 8 Drivers' Championships, and one of the most decorated operational minds in the sport history. And he became world famous, even to casual fans for his radio calls to Michael Massey throughout the controversial 2021 season. Do you remember? And then in August of 2024, he left Red Bull to join Audi as their first ever team principal. A massive coup for the project at that time. So Jonathan Wheatley is just not a name that Audi got. He brought 20 years of institutional memory of what a genuinely dominant Formula One operation looks like from the inside, and how Red Bull did their pit stops, which are the best on the grid, and how they made strategy calls and the culture that builds championships. He was the boots on the ground at the track for Red Bull Racing. That experience can't go unnoticed. And Nico Hülkenberg, who you guys may be huge fans of, was personally signed by Jonathan Wheatley for the Audi project. So these are things that cannot simply be replaced. And, the relationships, the processes, the trust he carried, all of that leaves with him. And there have been rumors that Matteo Binotto and Wheatley didn't see eye to eye a lot of the times. And when you have 2 big egos, albeit Wheatley and Binotto do seem like very nice people. And then the whole him moving to Aston Martin, one of the reasons could be that he was just so homesick and that he wanted to get back to the UK. And we know with Aston Martin can buy people over, right? They have the funding, and Lawrence Stroll has had history of poaching top Formula One personnel talent to Aston Martin. The results are yet to show, but at least they have the capability to do that. So I would love to know what Jonathan Wheatley's package would be. I reckon it'd be a very attractive package. So for Jonathan Wheatley, homecoming in the UK, getting to be a team principal of a British Formula One team, that is very significant. And a brand like Aston Martin, come on, if I were Jonathan Wheatley, I would entertain the idea, right? But in this case, it's actually signed and done. But now that leaves Matteo Binotto in a very precarious situation and a position. What does he do Who does he bring into the team as team principal? Right now, Mattia Binotto is the de facto interim team principal and head of the Audi F1 project. That's a lot of responsibility, and he's been very vocal in saying that we need someone new and I can't continue taking on these responsibilities. So he needs someone who can run the race team, right, on the track, strategy, pit wall, driver management, weekend operations, sponsorships, marketing, those kind of things, while he stays focused on the factory transformation and power unit development, right? The more back-end stuff that a head of an F1 project does. He needs also someone who can do this without a settling in period. So Audi do not have time for a 3-month handover, right? Miami is the next race, and the small 5-week buffer between Japan and Miami is a very good window for him to sign someone and so that they can start in Miami. So this needs to be someone who hits the ground running from day one. And ideally, Binotto would definitely want someone that he already trusts, because trust takes time. And time is one thing that Audi don't really have. I guess apart from the 5 weeks, it's going to be crunchy. Or actually, no, it's 5 weeks, then Miami, then another 3-week break, and then Monaco. But there is a structural and logistical problem that nobody really talks about. I guess they do in the Formula One world, but for us mere mortals, probably not, which is they Switzerland base. This is the same wall Jonathan Wheatley probably hit. Whoever comes in needs to either already be based there or be willing to relocate their entire life, or at least part of it. But Audi have also had some big changes recently. Audi had 3 high-level leadership changes in under 2 years. Andreas Seidl gone in July 2024, Jonathan Wheatley gone after just 2 races in 2026, and CEO Adam Baker left in May 2025. So this is a repeatable pattern. Why? We don't know. But until Audi addresses the structural instability at the top, this might keep repeating. And for a team whose target is to be a championship contender in 2030, and that pressure from Audi AG and their investors, including the Qatar Investment Authority, who own a significant minority stake, the concerns are real and it's growing as well. So whoever walks through that door is not just taking a job. They will be walking into one of the most watched and I guess coveted rebuilds in Formula One history for now. Now that we have the context, let's get into some juicy bits. Let's get into the names. And I'm going to do these in no particular order. So this is just what I think right now, and then we'll discuss who I think will actually do it. But starting with the man who was already inside the project before Binotto replaced him, Andreas Seidl. Now, this one could say is a quietly obvious choice. He already lives in Switzerland, which is pretty big. But the obstacle that cost Audi both Seidl's predecessor and Wheatley does not apply to him, which is pretty amazing. And when you look at his resume, he's had 3 wins in Le Mans with Porsche. He was a former team principal of McLaren Formula One, and he helped them rebuild after that tough 2022 season. So he has had manufacturer pedigree at every level. But there is a crucial detail that makes this case a lot more powerful for Andreas Seidl. He was at Sauber in 2023-24. He was the man behind the 2026 car and the power unit that Audi are racing right now. He laid that groundwork. The infrastructure is his. He knows Hinwil. He's been there. He's worked with the people. He understands the Audi facility and the way they work already. Obviously, there'll be a few changes, but he was a CEO who began transforming Hinwil into an Audi facility. So, what does that mean? Is that an easy switch for him? Potentially, right? But there's an elephant in the room. Maybe not one elephant, maybe a few elephants. The first is that Mattia Binotto actually replaced him and publicly called the team frozen under his leadership. Everything in 2024 was solely focused on 2026. There were no plans or developments ready for 24. It was kind of a sacrificial year, and even 2025. But the real story is a little bit more nuanced, because Andreas Seidl was caught in a bit of a corporate power struggle when Audi's AG's CEO changed over. There was a lot of internal movement, and I don't think he was fired for failure. He was just a casualty of a boardroom transition. But Andreas Seidl, is he even free right now? That's a big question. And the answer is yes, he is. He doesn't have any major commitments just as of now. He has been that way since he left in July 2024. He was linked, however, to Aston Martin, but he personally denied it in a direct phone call with a journalist, saying no, there's nothing to it, right? So he has spent 18 months on the sidelines watching the project he designed from the inside. So maybe there is something in him which is just itching towards him being like, you know what? I kind of want to get in and see if I could steer the ship now moving forward. So you never know. I think it's genuinely a possibility. I wouldn't be surprised if Mattia Binotto, thinking about putting his differences aside and just having a chat with Sadal. And I guess Sadal, he was a pretty nice guy as well. So I don't see why that would not be the case. But let's move on to candidate number 2. Okay, from the quiet logical choice to the loud, obvious, and very polarizing one. You know who I'm talking about. It's none other than Christian Horner. It was inevitable that we were going to speak about Christian Horner, right? He is free right now. His CV is untouchable. He's trying to get his way back into Formula One. 20 years at Red Bull, 6 Constructors' Championship, built a team from a rebranded Jaguar outfit into a dynasty. Audi's 2030 championship target mirrors almost exactly the timeline Horner followed at Red Bull. Debut in 2005 and first title in 2010. That was with a custom engine. This is going to be a manufacturer, Audi. And he has already done that before in terms of going from midfield to winning a championship in 5 years, minus the manufacturer bit. But again, he already set up Red Bull Ford powertrain during his leadership time. And Juan Pablo Montoya has publicly backed him. He says you might like him, you might hate him, but he gets the job done. And when we think about the fact that, is he available right now? Of course he is. We know that. And that's why I think he'd be itching to get a chance to speak to Mattia Binotto. Now, obviously, they both are team principals, former team principals, one at Ferrari, one at Red Bull. But could they work together? I don't know. But Christian Horner is available immediately. We know that. He's been out of Formula One since being sacked from Red Bull in July of 2025 last year. And he did try speaking to other Formula One teams, Aston Martin, but rumors suggest that Newey blocked it. With Alpine, he's trying to get a minority stake in it. There's something happening over there, but his investment deal seems to have stalled. He spoke to Haas, went pretty quiet, and Cadillac shut down publicly by their own CEO, Dan Tauris. So this is probably the most attractive and last realistic door at the level he is seeking to come back into. And he has said that he will only come back for something that he can win and that he has unfinished business in the sport. Now, a few things to keep in mind. One is obviously, can you have Binotto and Horner in the same team? Does Binotto see Christian Horner at that regard as it was before? But also, the boardroom optics question is right there, and it's very valid. That does a global German manufacturer want headlines that come with hiring Christian Horner? That is a conversation probably happening this week in Ingolstadt. I really think that Christian would be doing everything he can to have a chat with Mattia Binotto right now. And also, I think, just came to me right now, Christian would probably want skin in the game, and that could be a bit of an issue. But nonetheless, Christian Horner in Audi colors, you never know. It very well could happen. And yeah, I would not be surprised with this. But let's see, is this probable? Well, stay to the end of the video and you'll find out what my thought is. Now, moving from the most experienced name in Christian Horner to candidate number 3, who is someone who has been waiting quietly on the sidelines for almost 3 years. And this is one I genuinely do not think enough people are talking about. Any guesses? Well, Otmar Szafnauer. This is an underdog. Look at his CV. Over 25 years of Formula One experience. Force India, Racing Point, Aston Martin, Alpine even. And he has seen every version of the sport. And his Force India days were arguably one of the most underrated and most legendary days. They consistently punched way above their weight against teams with triple the budget. And one might argue, Force India did a lot better than what Aston Martin have done in the last 2-3 years probably, And at the head of it was Otmar Szafnauer. So he has those results and he's very hungry. He has said that he wants to find a way to get back into Formula One. So if Audi called tomorrow, I think he would answer before the first ring even finished. And the good thing with him is that there's no public drama attached to him, relatively clean from a headline perspective as well. Now, is he available right now? That's a huge question to answer because he's just taken the CEO role at Van Amersfoort Racing, VAR, a Formula 2 and Formula 3 junior team, just 4 weeks ago. And he's been out of Formula 1 since being sacked by Alpine mid-2023. So that's nearly 3 years on the sidelines, right? And the VAR, the Van Amersfoort Racing opportunity and appointment tells its own story. That after all the experience, the best available option was a junior series team. And this is not me, taking the mickey out of Otmar. It just shows how competitive Formula 1 really is. It is dogfight. It is cutthroat, right? So that's a huge complication. Would he be open to walking away immediately after he just signed a deal 4 weeks ago, given it's a Formula One team principal role that he truly believes he can make a difference at? Maybe. But when you look at his Alpine exit, it was very acrimonious. He was sacked mid-season. There were disagreements about team culture. Yeah, it was not amicable, shall we say. And he also doesn't have a track record of a works manufacturer program at the very top level. Yes, he was at Alpine for a little while, but I don't think he got enough time to really show his true potential because there was so much managerial issues over there. And the biggest thing probably working against him is that he was not considered when Audi were originally building their leadership structure, which tells you something about where he sits on their list. But again, a very, very capable candidate to look at. So does he stand a good chance? Let me know in the comments below. So candidate number 4, we're going to go from an experienced operator to the wild card that I don't think anyone is saying out loud, but I think this man deserves a serious conversation. And I'm talking about no other than the Drive to Survive star, Günther Steiner. I love the fact that I've just introduced him as a Drive to Survive star, but he's definitely worth having a chat over because him and Mattia Binotto are very close personal friends and both are Italian. Audi needs someone who, they can trust immediately with zero settling in period. That existing relationship changes everything. And when you look at Günther, yes, he's a personality, but he did build Haas from literally nothing and Haas is still running on the grid. He wrote the business plan for Haas at his kitchen table. So if anyone understands building a team under pressure from scratch, it is him. And his global profile from Drive to Survive to the podcasts to commentary definitely makes this a PR moment for Audi and not just a sporting appointment. And they would be in every single headline worldwide. But the key question then becomes again, is he available right now? And the answer to that question as of today is no, because he's just signed as a CEO of Tech3 MotoGP team for 2026. And according to his business partner, who confirmed that he had several Formula One return options and deliberately chose MotoGP instead. So the MotoGP commitment is real, but it is also only a few months old. So that's why it's a little bit complicated. He turned down Formula One to do MotoGP, a deliberate choice, not a default. And then walking away from a commitment that big in MotoGP just months in raises questions that Audi and their board might have, and the fact that they already lived through it with Jonathan Wheatley. So would they want that potentially again? Probably not. And also that Günther Steiner doesn't have, manufacturer F1 experience, because Haas were always a midfield operation on a limited budget and a customer team of Ferrari. And again, the Switzerland question still exists, the whole location logistics thing, because Günther Steiner currently is based in Mooresville in North Carolina. So North Carolina to Switzerland is probably easily an 8-9 hour flight. So Günther Steiner is definitely a candidate on the table. And again, it is Formula One, and team principal roles in Formula One don't just show up like this. Do you know what I mean? So I think Mattia and Günther are definitely probably having a chat as we speak right now. But moving on though, candidate number 5, there is one. Well, kind of. And here's a section I'm most excited about, because I genuinely believe the answer to this question might be someone whose name has not been appeared in a single mainstream article yet. And that is a mystery hire, a name that nobody is saying. And what do I mean by this? So think about this. Every name we've discussed so far comes from inside the current Formula One bubble. Experienced operators with public profiles and track records. But here's a question to ask. Does Audi really need that? Because every single one of those candidates comes with certain complications. What if Binotto and Audi decide the cleanest move is someone nobody is actually talking about yet? And when you look at history, this backs up, because some of the most impactful leadership hires in Formula One were not obvious names. Binotto himself was not a conventional team principal when Ferrari elevated him after Maurizio Arrivabene, and neither was Andrea Stella at McLaren right now. So there are a few angles. So I have 3 that I've thought of, okay? The first one is someone from inside the Volkswagen and Audi motorsport empire. So think DTM, WEC, Dakar, Formula E. There are some serious operators in those worlds who have the trust of the board, already understand the culture, and would, not need convincing to relocate because they're already embedded within the, Audi, German, Switzerland sort of environment. And the second angle is the WEC angle, or endurance world figure. Andreas Seidel built his reputation at Porsche before Formula One, and the assumption that the next Audi team principal must come from the F1 paddock is just that, an assumption. The third angle to pursue is Formula E, a team principal from Formula E right now, because all the regulations in Formula 1 2026 mirror a lot of battery management, etc. in Formula E. So would it make sense to poach a Formula E team principal to run Audi Formula 1? Again, there's a huge risk over there because they don't understand the logistics of Formula 1 and the insides of Formula 1. But again, maybe they make it up for what they know about Formula E and how they can bring that into Formula 1. So the Formula E angle over here is very, very valid. And actually, now that I think of it, there is a fourth angle. Someone currently inside another Formula 1 team just below the team principal level, a sporting director perhaps, like Jonathan Wheatley was at Red Bull. A head of operations, someone Mattia Binotto has quietly identified who has not leaked, because they're still employed elsewhere. I think those four options are still very, very valid. And those are the angles that we need to consider. I genuinely do not know who this person is going to be, and neither does anyone else right now. But Mattia Binotto has said that they would like to expect, to announce it soon. And I would bet that when that drops, at least half of the grid will pretty much be like, wait, I didn't expect that. Very interesting times, but I want to know what you guys think. Who is the name that maybe nobody is saying or thinking about? Who would your mystery hire for Audi F1 team principal be? Drop it in the comments below. Right, so now you've heard all the candidates, the four candidates, but now here's my actual take, and I am going to commit to a specific answer because sitting on the fence is boring and you guys deserve a lot better than that. So, are you guys ready? All right, my pick for who's going to be the new team principal of Audi Formula 1 team is firstly going to be down between two people, Andreas Seidl or Christian Horner. So firstly, why does it come down to these two? Well, Günther Steiner is committed to MotoGP and the Switzerland issue is actually pretty real, right? And Otmar just took a different job and was not on Audi's original list at the beginning. And the mystery hire is fascinating but very speculative for now. And realistically, this comes down to Andreas Seidl or Christian Horner. And the reason is simple. Audi needs someone fast. And both of these men are available right now with zero complications on that front. So for Christian Horner, the argument is that Binotto would be irresponsible not to at least make that call, I think, because Christian Horner's CV and experience demands the conversation happens regardless of everything else. And if Horner is serious about not only coming back for something that can win, this is the project. Volkswagen Group backing, it's a huge company, huge conglomerate. It's a works manufacturer, 2030 target, there's enough time. And this is the brief he has been waiting for, and I'm sure he wants to prove other people wrong. And the Switzerland logistics are pretty solvable on both sides if they wanted enough. Like you could arrange private travel, hybrid presence. These are just details, but not deal breakers if Audi decide that he's the man. But again, would he want skin in the game? That could be a deal breaker. And now for Andreas Seidl, I think here's what people are sleeping on. Andreas Seidl was not fired for failure. He was caught in a corporate power struggle during a leadership transition at Audi AG. And that is a completely different thing to being found wanting. Secondly, he was the man behind the Audi Formula 1 project foundation. He was the one who built it and led that in 2023 and 4. So he already knows the facilities, Hinwil. The Germany stuff would be new to him, but he already knows half of what they do. And he laid the foundations for the car that they are racing right now that you guys are seeing performing decently. But again, 18 months on the sidelines, and he denied the Aston Martin job, so to say. So he's available, he's hungry, and he definitely has a point to prove. But the wild card is that what does Mattia Binotto actually recommend to the board, right? Does he back Andreas Seidl, the man he replaced and publicly criticized? That answer is the most intriguing and important unknown in this entire story right now. So my call right now, I genuinely think that Andreas Seidl gets the conversation first because Binotto already knows him from Audi and needs someone to start ASAP who understands it. But if Christian Horner can solve the Switzerland question and, if they can see eye to eye together, the Audi board, Mattia Binotto and Christian Horner, I think he'll get the job. So that is my take. More leaning towards Seidl, but you never know with Christian, and maybe you just never know with Otmar or Günther. Or maybe there is a mystery hire. So that is my take. Seidl probably is the right man for the job. But Christian Horner, I think it's worth having a chat with him. And Otmar and Günther, you just never know what could come of it. And the fifth option of a mystery hire, very, very valid. So I want to hear your opinion now, because I could be completely wrong here. And I genuinely want to know what other people watching this think. So out of Seidl, Horner, Otmar, Steiner, and the potential mystery hire, who do you think walks through that Hinwheel door at Audi F1? Drop your pick in the comments and give me one reason as to why you think that is the case. While you're down there, do you think Audi's Switzerland base is actually a long-term problem? Because a lot of people within the Formula One world have said that relocating to Switzerland is a pretty tough thing to do, because they have now lost multiple senior people partly for that reason, all the way going back to Sauber days, in the 2010s and stuff as well. So is this a structural issue that they need to fix? And Mattia Binotto said that the announcement will be coming soon, hopefully. And if you want to be the first to know when I break it down, subscribe down below and hit that bell. This story is moving pretty fast and I will be all over it the second it drops. And if you want more Formula One chaos right now, I've just dropped a full breakdown of why Max Verstappen might be hanging up his boots from Formula One in 2026. 28 years old, 4 World Championships, and he might be retiring. So the video is up right now. I'm pointing it, as you can see. It is worth your time. Do check it out. And as always, thank you for watching. Drop your pick below. I'll see you in the next episode. This is Sachin signing out. Appreciate you.